America, I was born in America. I love this country.
But unfortunately, there are also those Muslims that hold more radical views.
Islam will dominate. That's what it will be.
These groups are not Al-Qaeda, they're not Hamas, they're not Hezbollah, and most of them are non-violent. But they still want to replace American law with their version of Sharia, Islamic law.
We want to see Sharia here, and it will be. The flag of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, will be, inshallah, in the White House if that's what we choose to be.
That was a clip from the new documentary, The Third Jihad, Radical Islam's Vision for America. The film looks at whether Muslim extremists are threatening America and the West. Joining us now, the narrator of this film, the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser, is it your contention that we're in danger of being taken over by Islam and Sharia law?
Well, the contention is that, Alan, there's many fronts to this war. All we do is focus on the violence and the terror front, but there's another front, which is the ideological front. And in the early 90s, the FBI uncovered a document which demonstrated the Muslim Brotherhood is working through multiple forms of organizations to culturally bring forth, as we see in England now, they're having Sharia courts. We see various enclaves of trying to permeate the ideology of political Islam that is a fuel, ultimately, for one of the means, which is terror. But other peaceful means include threatening our society, freedom and liberty from within.
Let me ask the question again, because I'm not sure I got a direct answer. Are you concerned that the United States will fall victim to Sharia law?
I'm concerned that there will be enclaves of Muslims communities that will be allowed to have their own courts that could be problematic when it's compared to the UN Declaration of Human Rights and the U.S. Constitution and our Bill of Rights. So, yeah, I think that is certainly one of the fronts of this conflict that we need to pay attention to.
So we're going to have communities where Islam has its own courts in violation of our criminal justice system in this country. You predict that's what's going to happen?
That's what's happening in England, and I hope it's not going to happen in the U.S. I hope that, listen, I love my faith. I'm a devout Muslim. I'm doing this because I believe that America needs to understand the conflict of ideas and that there are many aspects to Islamic law that need to be modernized, that need to be brought into the 21st century, and without the attention to these ideas in films like The Third Jihad, we won't get there.
You put out DVDs of your previous film to 17 or 12, I think it was, actually, swing states as newspaper inserts in the Greensboro News and Record, or Charlotte News and Record. No, actually it was Greensboro. The publisher put out a statement saying this was fear-mongering and divisive, which is why he would not include it in his newspaper. Do you understand what he's saying?
Alan, listen, I was involved in The Third Jihad. The producers made the film you're talking about, which is Obsession, and that film was vetted on Fox, it was vetted on CNN, you showed it, and now because people want to attack the messenger, and instead of dealing with the message, you want to divert it into dealing with the ideas, and that's what we're really talking about, is dealing with the reality that these are Muslims saying this, and it's a threat if we don't deal with the ideas and reform our faith from within.
Hey, Doctor, I want to go into how widespread, and through your research, is this radical view, and how openly are people stating it?
I firmly believe that the vast majority of Muslims want to advocate for a liberty, freedom-based Islam. It's probably about 5 to 10%, but if you look at the numbers, that's a number that we need to deal with. And we've had over 30 attacks against the United States since 9/11, and these attacks are going to continue to regenerate themselves unless we start to focus on the fuel, which is the ideology of radical political Islam.
Are we infiltrating these radical groups enough, in your view, in terms of our law enforcement?
I think our Homeland Security agents have been doing a wonderful job, and that's why we haven't seen an attack. But, I think that there hasn't been enough pressure to stop the fuel of the radical ideology. You see Islamic organizations speaking on the behalf of my community, and all they can do is condemn the act instead of condemning Hamas and Hezbollah by name. And what happens is then you sort of have an apologetic that leads to the fuel for more acts.
You mentioned England. You really believe that we could have a separate state with Sharia law working, it was sort of separate within the United States? You believe that can happen?
It's not a separate state, Sean, but it is really the allowance of ideologies where you see women's rights abused, you see gay rights abused, you see the inability to have freedom of speech. Muslims like myself that like to ask and question authority are tribalized, marginalized.
Thank you, Doctor, for being with us.